Hey everybody, I was just going to make a quick little stack video to answer some questions we had in Discord. Several people brought up, how do you identify breakouts, potential breakouts, failed breakouts? And we're just going to go over a couple of things that I do and some tools that I use, and look back at some stuff and see how it played out, and just real quick video to help you possibly on your charting. What I got pulled up right here is Dogecoin on the daily. Now we can look back through the daily and see multiple patterns that are real similar, and I like to say it's just triangles everywhere on this. Um, so we'll start right here on the most recent price action. But what I like to do is I'll find my little pattern that we have drawn out here. There's kind of a top trend line, and it could be looked at multiple ways. Could be you could get some kind of pennant flag type pattern. It's a lot of that is just how you're going to look at it and where you're going to pull your anchor points from. You could end up really and truly having some kind of channel, but that's neither here nor there. When you're in a bull market and you're playing to the upside, you're looking for these breakouts. And so that's the way I charted this. Now we have other things that's going to come into play here, and that's our MACD and our RSI. They go hand in hand. So I wanted to find some anchor points here, and it seems that we're very consistent with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 touches. If it has, to me, 4 or 5 plus, then that's how you kind of know, like, that's a strong resistance, downward sloping resistance. So now that we've identified that, we drew our line. The bottom, it can matter and it doesn't, just depending on the situation. But here's what we're looking for as far as a breakout. Now, most of the time, a pennant or a flag or something like that's going to play out and break out about 75% of the way through the pattern, okay? And what we had down here on our MACD, if you can see it, I can blow it up a little bit, is that we had, grab my tool again, we had it trying to diverge back to neutral and positive right here, and while it was testing the upper trend line again. So what I like to see to confirm my breakouts, all right, is one, a break of the upper downward sloping trend line that has been resistance multiple times. I like to see a break above that. Then I like to see a back test of that same line as support, which you can see we have here. And I don't know how well any of y'all can see that if you're watching on your phones, but this is what I want to see to feel good about taking a long position. Um, long. I'm talking about weeklies, monthlies, getting into a position looking for the long-term gains. This is not this particular situation is not a day trade. I don't want to enter it after it's made this huge run. What I want to do is once I've seen this huge run up, I want to see a back test. So we have a spring boarded up, back test of spring as support, and then followed through price action. Here we tried to almost test it twice, but the 200 moving average was also kind of coinciding with that line. So that's even better. We have once, twice, and it's going while we're losing all of this negative momentum on the MACD. And that is, to me, that is where I want to be entering a position to say, hey, there has been a change in sentiment on this time scale. And it doesn't have to go a bazillion percent. We could just be looking at another run up to 18 cents or something like that. But this is where I want to build a position for my long-term stuff. Okay, and if we look back in history of Dogecoin, it's got a history of doing the same thing over and over and over. And you can see where we had a breakout and it tests repeatedly and we got a spring, but it held as support until finally we had the buyers come in and it broke. Once again, same situation. It broke, back tested, and it went. We can look all the way back here. It has just loved to do it time and time again. We can zoom in there, but it broke out, back tested, and then it ripped. So that's what I'm looking for when I'm saying, okay, I want to enter a position now that we have some confirmation on a breakout, a longer term position that, and then we start looking at levels that we want to try and take profit at. And as you hear, I'm going to go ahead and erase all this for you. After the breakout, then I'll start setting my levels that right there once was resistance, may be resistance again. It also has been support in the past multiple times. If I'm getting in on this retest of that line around the 7-8 cent mark, I want to be taking profits at that 16 cent mark. I want to take some profits. Then we're looking for our next test where we've had multiple tests of resistance and support, and probably going to end up being right around that 21 cent mark. The next one will be somewhere in that's kind of a small one, I'd say closer to 29, 30 cents. I want to take a quarter of my position here, a quarter of my position here, and a quarter of my position there. And that last 25%, I want to let it ride until the trend tells me that the tides are changing. Because when it comes to crypto, period, you've got your money out and your profit out there. You're that last 25%, it could go nuts. And it has, and it's showed it time and time again that, Dogecoin can run to 75 cents easily. And you don't want to be completely out of a position at 30 cents and miss huge amounts of money. But you can leave a little money in there. That's just the way I do it. I'll take 3 out and leave 1 in. That's my risk reward, the way I've got it calculated. And I will let that 25% run until the trend tells me that it's different. You can move your stop loss up with each one of these because it may rip to 75 cents, come back down to test 44 cents, and that be where your stop loss is at, and you're still selling above your last profit target. It's really, really simple. It's really great. Some of the other patterns, Bitcoin shows a lot of them. We can look at them on the weekly too. Right here. Bitcoin was showing this tremendously. And anybody who wasn't taking profits here and ended up catching this pullback, well, that was just you were gambling at that point, because this was almost identical. If you look at it on the daily charts, Wyckoff distribution, and we took a 50% retrace, you could have gotten out probably on that break of, down below 52. You didn't have to try to hang on for it. But if you got out and then you identified this accumulation phase right here, then you wrote it back up. But here's what I really wanted to show y'all is what we have going on here, which was kind of a giveaway that the trend was done for me. We had a real similar, it's kind of a scuffy head and shoulders. And it can be upward sloping. I don't care. A lot of people say it can't. No, you're getting that general pattern, and that general pattern is telling you this trend is done right now. And if you recognize that on this right shoulder, you saved yourself a lot of downside. Matter of fact, if you got out on the right shoulder, you saved yourself 68% downside of the overall trend. So you've got to learn patterns, identify them. You have falling wedges, falling broadening wedges, rising wedges, bull flags, bull pennants. Let me find you a bull flaggish pattern, not to be confused with a descending triangle, which we had on Bitcoin here way back when. And I'm going to run through that real quick. If you're thinking that a lot of people tried to push this narrative and it didn't work, because a lot of people want to be like, well, it's got to be some kind of really weird flagpole pattern, and they wanted to do something like that. That's just not how you lay it out. Not after you've had a year-long plus bull run. That's not what it was. You have to let things evolve. You have to let things play out at times and see what it's going to form. But this was pretty textbook of a descending triangle where you have a flat line of support, which was the $6,000 range, and you kept making lower highs as you were testing this downward sloping trend line multiple times. And it really went all the way to the end of this pattern to break down. I was expecting a breakdown back here, but it went all the way down. And then once again, when you're trying to confirm a breakout is you had a break of the flat trend line here, or the base support line. You had a break of it. It retested it and got rejected, and you had tons of follow-through price action. A lot of times you can get fake outs, but the way to kind of negate that on these fake outs is you've got to look at the follow-through price action. It's not so much about just the retest. It's the follow-through price action, like we showed on Doge. On Dogecoin here, it was the follow-through price action. So there was the retest that just, I can't buy right there at the retest and say, okay, that's it, because we don't know if it's going to continue to go low. But it was that next candle, the next daily candle, where we had massive follow-through price action. There was our first test, and we'll see. The follow-through price action, was pretty nice. We're talking about 26%. And that's well within the means of where I wanted to be. And we started losing negative momentum, and now here we go. Lots of different stock pattern charts, breakouts. Let's see, somebody was asking earlier today, I think. Let me look at Apple. So if you're looking at patterns, there's a whole bunch of charts online with different patterns that you can help identify. In our Discord, we have a whole educational section with information, books, charts that you can download, that you can print, that's got these patterns on them, divergence patterns, all that stuff. But you look at Apple here, a lot of times you can do the same thing with just simple support and resistance lines. And I like to go ahead and identify those in a trend, and they've been here for a while now, because what we had is a little trading channel at some point. But right here you can see we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tests. We had a little false breakout, and that's okay. You didn't get any follow-through price action after the retest. So therefore, you have to wait to get that follow-through price action and say, hey, we're fixing to change into an uptrend, or we're going here. But what you had going on here was just a support line, and we keep testing it for support and resistance over and over. So we know that it's a magnet. The price is drawn to those lines because that is where traders have settled up. You've got multiple in a trend anywhere. But Apple today is obviously being pulled back down to it. And I would suspect that we come back down to 138.43 and get a bounce off of it. Therefore, I would want to take a short position there based on these different factors. One, we're closer to a support than we are a resistance, which is kind of a downward sloping line here. But if you look at the MACD, once again, MACD can be your friend. We have loss of positive momentum. One valley right here, and then now we're forming a second one, and we're building up negative momentum. That is telling me that we have a lot of sell pressure coming down. So my thoughts would be this 138.43 is a possible area of support. And if it breaks below that, like we see here, then it's gonna rip down, and then you get down on the smaller time scales if you're trading this. So the break below that was followed through by a big dip down, which was gobbled back up. So you can do it a lot with just support and resistance. You also can get patterns like this. Now this is more of your flaggy type things, and you can look at that as a bull flag, bull pennant, and it really plays out the same way. So it all is telling you the same thing. It's just how you look at it. How are you taught to do it? How your TA learned? But this was our flag pennant pattern, and it broke out about 75% of the way through. Multiple touches on top, multiple touches on the bottom, and you just want to see that price squeeze here and then break. And then when you get down to, like I said, smaller time scales, you'll be able to look at it and see where it had a breakout, a back test for the next candle, and then it went. A lot of times, if you want to use, some people want to use the flag poles. Well, no, you can clone that. Take that, move it to the breakout point. But that, people always say, oh, that's your 100% measured move. Yeah, in these markets, it's not. That's a big measured move right there. You know, up $222. I don't see that. But anywho, yeah, there's a lot of different patterns that go on in trading. But a lot of stuff, and Amazon, it's kind of done it quite often here too. How many times we've broke below a support line? This is the long-term support line, and tested it, broke back up, made it support again, broke below it, resistance. You can see it's just hit it, and that's what you want to find. You want to find these patterns that are trying to play out like that. Amazon is very Apple-ish because they're all tech stuff. We'll find one more little scenario. Let's find something to the downside. What do we think? How did Snap fare to the downside? Yeah, so same thing with downward price action is you want to look for retest of support and resistance. It's real simple in those patterns. There's just hundreds of patterns out there if you choose to. A lot of times you see these gaps, and then you get consolidation. That's most of the time setting up for another gap down. But you have a high, slightly lower high, less people on this asset here than they did there. So you kind of start to see that things point to where they're going. You start doing some connection. You have some lonely stragglers, some weird stuff like that going, but you kind of see where we're headed. The charts are telling you the direction of the macro trend. Now, if you want to get on the short time frames, if you're a scalp trader, a lot of these crazy, let's go down to the 1 minute chart. Let me zoom this out for you. You can still find crazy patterns. You can find crazy stuff on 1 minute charts. Let's see here. Find like a double top right here. And multiple times that you're on the 1 minute. So if you're trading this to the upside that morning, you're entering, you're ripping, you get one test, you get a pullback and a test of this little area of support. It rips again and you get stopped right there. That right there would be my signal to get out of it, take my profit, and avoid this downside. Then again, this right here, our 1125 line, it goes way back to historical support. So therefore, you'd be looking at it, we're hanging around it. Boom, we're doing it again. Once, twice, 3 tests, can't really do anything, we're back down again. But on this way up, you can even see these tiny little flags. That broke out just like the big flags. on the 1 minute time frame. Let's see if we zoom in here to it. So there's my rough little flag. It's the same thing. We had a break, a back test, and a go. It's just real simple, real simple. And I probably overcomplicated it a lot for you. But I'm going to make some more videos on different trading tools, how to use some of these tools here and how to use some of these techniques. But it's that simple. But that's kind of how I identify my breakouts. In an uptrend, I'm looking for a break of whether it be a channel, a flag. It can be, because I can't go through all of them. It'd take all night. You can have a sideways consolidating channel. You can have multiple different flags. You can have pennants. You can have all kinds of different items. What I like to look for a lot is the W shape. Usually when I see a W shape and then break that area, that's telling me we're going up. And then the M pattern or some would say double tops. That pattern right there is telling you a trend is over. This is telling you that you found macro major support at this same area. You would expect buyers to come in. So there's tons of different patterns, and we can work on them. But we go over them all the time in Discord. Please go to my channel. It's in the link of any of my lives and in the bios. Our Discord is phenomenal. We have a great group of people. There's 150, 200 people in there. We're always learning. We're always doing trade setups every day, all day long. We have educational material, crypto, options, common shares of stock. We're doing retirement planning, 401k advisement on where to allocate money. We have got some really great people, a great team of guys that's always doing analysis. We live stream as much as possible. So please go take a look at it. It's a free 7-day trial when you sign up. After that, if you choose to stay and we've brought value to your life, it's $5 a month. No big deal. We're not scalping people. We're just people trying to help other people. So thanks a lot. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it was educational. See you soon.